Okay, so here's your homework, section 3.5 on factoring. Here's number 4. I picked this one just because it has a kind of an extra step that we need to remember how to do. So with all of these problems, we're just factoring. It's the same process over and over. What do we always have to ask ourselves? The first question is, does it have a GCF? So I'm going to write it down and put a question mark, because then that way I remember to ask myself it every single time on every single problem, because I need to, or else my answer will not have relatively prime factors. So if I look at this problem, it does have a greatest common factor in the variables, not in the 1, 18, and 80, but in the variables. So right here what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out a v. So I end up with v squared plus 18v plus 80. Okay, so that v right there, that pink v, is just going to kind of hang out until the end of the problem, because now what I got to do is I got to look at this guy right here and say, okay, he needs to be factored. So what is basically his twin? What is another way to write him and not leave it in this v squared plus 18v plus 80? So this is where it is in standard form. Sorry, I forgot to ask that question. So you should always make sure it's in standard form before you do this, because of course we need to know ABC. So yes, it is in standard form, and yes, it did have a GCF. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just go through your steps. The first step is, of course, to do A times C. So it's 1 times 80, so I end up with 80. Okay, this is where I need factors of 80. I don't care what those factors have to add up to be at the moment. All I care about is that I can list out factors. So I'm just going to start listing them out. 1 and 80, and I know that I could also have -1 and -80. 2 and 40. Let's see, 3 doesn't go in there. Let's see, 4 does. It should be 4 and 20. And then, like, I could keep going. Let's see. 4 and 20. My brain is not working at the moment. Okay, I end up with 5 and 16. Let's see, can't divide it by 6, can't divide it by 7, 8 and 10, and there might be a few more, but I'm going to stop right there because that's 5 factors. So let's see if any 5 of these work. They have to add up to be 18. So the question is, I need which ones add up to be 18 for step number 2. So that one doesn't work, that one doesn't work, that one doesn't work, that doesn't work. Right here, 8 and 10. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to rewrite this with the b term blown up. So I get v squared plus 8v plus 10v plus 80. The key here is that I have not changed its value, I've just changed how it looks. So that's step number 3. Okay, step number 4 is I need to do my factor by grouping. So here's my first group, my second group, and I'm just going to pull out what they have in common. So this guy has a v, so I'm left with v plus 8. I know my leftovers on the other one better be v plus 8, which is relatively prime, or else I'm in trouble. And it looks like I could pull a 10 out, and I'm left with v plus 8. So if I rewrite this, which is step number 5, I have v plus 8 times v plus 10. And I need to come back here and remember that I pulled out a v in the beginning, so in order to multiply this out and get back to the original problem, I need to put the v on the outside. So I have 3 factors, and all 3 of them are relatively prime. Okay, so the v is relatively prime by itself, v plus 8, that factor is relatively prime to itself, and so is v plus 10. So this right here would be my final answer. And I could check that by just re-multiplying using the foiling or the box, and then going back through and distributing that GCF of a v that I had pulled out earlier.